and welcome to the Environment This Week series section of Drishti IAS. I'm Aisha, and in today's episode we will be covering topics which are important from General Studies paper 3, that is Environment and Ecology. What we have done is we have taken topics from the current affairs and then we will be talking about the static portion of it, and in the end we will be covering practice MCQs from these topics. So let us begin. So the topics that we have chosen for this week is New Tiger Reserve, Natural Farming, Commission for Air Quality Management, and the Climate Talks Breakdown or Dismantling, that is the COP29. As we begin, Drishti IAS Mukherjee Nagar classes has now been shifted to Noida. Specifically, it is Noida Sector 15. So, the new hub for UPSC aspirants now is Noida Sector 15. And if you are traveling by metro, then Noida Sector 15 metro station is your destination. And the exact address is C171/2 Block A Sector 15 Noida, Uttar Pradesh. And it is walking distance from the metro station. If you have any query, give us a call at 9311406440. The Hindi medium batches are starting from 9th of December and the English medium batches are starting from the 12th of December. If you want to know about the exact location, then the link is given in the description box. And also if you want to receive a call from Drishti IAS, then also the link is given in the description box. You need to go and fill out the form so that Drishti can reach out to you. Now, looking at the perspective of the upcoming UPSC prelims and mains examination, that is UPSC 2025. So, Drishti IAS has come up with a Sambhav 2025, which will be covering your both prelims and mains preparation. It will cover 10 daily prelims practice questions based on in-depth analysis of the previous year questions, to daily mains practice questions. Also you will get real-time ranking of the people who will be giving examination, complete coverage of general studies and current affairs, and also it is open access for all the aspirants. So if you want to prepare both for prelims and mains, then the new program of Drishti IAS, that is Sambhav 2025, is the right option for you. Now let us begin with the first topic, and that is the New Tiger Reserve. So, the India has got its 56th Tiger Reserve. So, in total now, the total number of Tiger Reserves in India are 56, and the recent one which has been added to the list is the Guru Ghasidas Temur Pingla Tiger Reserve, which is present in the state of Chhattisgarh. Then, Chhattisgarh before this had 3 Tiger Reserves, and they were Indravati, Udanti, Sitanadi and Achanakmar, and now it has got 4th Tiger Reserve, and that is the Guru Ghasidas Temur Pingla Tiger Reserve. So in total now Chhattisgarh has 4 Tiger Reserves and India in total now has 56 Tiger Reserves. Then this is the 3rd largest Tiger Reserve in India after the Nagarjuna Sagar Srisailam in Madhya Pradesh and Manas in Assam. So Guru Ghasidas is the 3rd largest Tiger Reserve in India. Then according to the Zoological Survey of India, within the Guru Ghasidas Temur Pingla Tiger Reserve, a total of 753 species are found, which includes 365 invertebrates and 388 vertebrates. Then about how the tiger reserves are notified in our country. So the tiger reserves in India are notified by the state governments under the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. So the notification is done by the state government, and it is the NTCA, which is the National Tiger Conservation Authority, which sends proposal to the state government, and then state government notifies the tiger reserve. Then which was later amended by the Wildlife Protection Amendment Act of 2022, and the process is carried out on the advice of the NTCA, which is the National Tiger Conservation Authority. So NTCA starts the process and then it sends the approval notification to the state government, and in the end the state government notifies the tiger reserve. Now about the tigers, then if we talk about then tigers, it is also known as Panthera tigris, and they are mostly found in the tropical rainforest, evergreen forest, temperate forest, mangrove, grasslands. Then countries where tiger population is found, so it is found in 13 tiger range countries. And who are these 13 tiger range countries? They are India, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Myanmar, Russia, China, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, Cambodia, Laos and Vietnam. So majority of them are the South Asian countries. Then as per the latest report by the IUCN, tiger has got extinct in countries like Cambodia, Laos and Vietnam. If we talk about the protection status of tiger, then the IUCN Red List, it comes under endangered. CITES is Appendix 1 and Wildlife Protection Act 1972 is Schedule 1. So it is under the highest degree of protection in India. If we talk about the conservation effort with regards to the tiger population, so International Big Cat Alliance for the conservation of the 7 big cats like tiger, lion, leopard, snow leopard, cheetah, jaguar and puma. Then T into 2 campaign, that is doubling the population of tiger, and this has been a successful campaign. Then NTCA, that is National Tiger Conservation Authority, it was constituted under the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. Then Project Tiger, which was launched in the year 1973. Then comes the tiger census, which is carried out after every 4 years. Now threats, if we talk about, then habitat loss, poaching and illegal trade and human wildlife conflict. Now because of urbanization and also increasingly getting land for the agriculture, the human wildlife conflict has increased. Now if we talk about the tiger population in India, then India has the highest number of tiger population. And if we talk about the tiger reserves, so there are in total now 56 tiger reserves. Then largest being the Nagarjuna Sagar in Andhra Pradesh. Now coming on to the second topic, and that is about natural farming. As the name itself is talking about, that it is about natural farming, getting things done naturally and not using anything outside, that is any kind of chemical or pesticides. So the Union Cabinet has approved the launch of the National Mission on Natural Farming. So the National Mission on Natural Farming has been approved, and it will be a centrally sponsored scheme under the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. Remembering about the ministry becomes important. So Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. Now what is the aim of this mission? So that is to promote natural farming practices across India in a focused mission mode approach. Mission mode approach means that you need to set a goal for yourself and then work towards that goal. Then about natural farming, so the Agriculture Ministry, it defines natural farming as chemical free farming system. Chemical free farming system means that any externally used chemicals are not used into the farming, pesticides are not used into the farming. So naturally things are done. That only uses inputs produced using livestock and plant resources. It means outside chemicals are not used, livestock and plant resources are used. Then system where the laws of nature are applied to agricultural practices. It means naturally things are done. Then National Mission on Natural Farming. So this initiative will include certification, branding and the establishment of around 10,000 bio input resource centers, and will be implemented via scientific institutions and gram panchayats. So even at the grassroots level it will be done. Then what are the objectives of this mission? So the objective is to promote sustainable agriculture through natural farming. Sustainable agriculture means the agriculture which will last long, and also the agriculture which is naturally based, is not using any kind of pesticides or chemicals. Then it will create a robust infrastructure for training, certification and branding of chemical free produce. Chemical free produce is what will be the one of the objectives of this mission. Then develop a large scale adoption model through effective farmer support and community engagement. Now community engagement becomes important when anything is related to the farming, because it is the farmers that needs to be taken care of, or it is the farmers that needs to be taken into a loop. So that loop can be created when things are done at the panchayat level or at the grassroots level. Then What is the current coverage? So around 22 lakh hectares under natural farming is there, and 34 lakh farmers are engaged in the natural farming nationwide. Then goals of the National Mission on Natural Farming. So what are the goals with regard to it? So the target area expansion is around and 7.5 lakh hectares under the natural farming. So the area needs to be increased. The expansion for natural farming needs to be increased. Then cluster based implementation. So this will work towards establishing 15,000 clusters in willing gram panchayats. So at the grassroots level. Then farmer outreach. So reach around 1 crore farmers within 2 years. So this is the goal, that this much farmers needed to be covered within 2 years. Then the next point comes is the support infrastructure bio input resource centers. So this will support the infrastructure. This will be like setting up of 10,000 centers to provide ready to use natural farming inputs. So natural farming inputs, it means whatever technologies or whatever equipments will help in promoting the natural farming. So that natural farming ready to use equipments will be given. Then model demonstration farms. Establish 2000 farms at Krishi Vigyan Kendras, agricultural universities and farmers field. So 2000 farms, because by establishing and developing more number of farms, the area under the natural farming practice will increase. Then farmer training programs. Now train 18.75 lakh farmers in natural farming practices and input preparation. Example, Jeev Mitra or Bij Amrit. Now see, when a person who is still now using chemicals and outside pesticides in their farms, now shifting the approach of that person becomes difficult. For that you need to train the person, you need to increase awareness that how natural farming is good and how they can also earn from the natural farming, and how natural farming will be good for their farm also or for themselves also, and the input cost which they are putting as of now will reduce in the coming time. Then community engagement. Employ or deploy around 30,000 Krishi Sakhis, community resource persons, for awareness, mobilization and hand holding. Now awareness is one of the most important words, because behavioral change is also required, and if a person is used to doing a things or a method which they have been using since a very long period of time, it becomes difficult for those people to switch to some other method, and it might be taxing on their personality as a whole also. Now coming to the third topic, and that is Commission for Air Quality Management, that is CAQM. Now the Supreme Court has sought a report from the CAQM on the incidents of stubble burning. What becomes important for us is to know about CAQM, because that is something that can be asked in the examination. So what is CAQM? CAQM is a statutory body, and if it is a statutory body, it is formed by an act. So CAQM is formed by which act? It is the Commission for Air Quality Management in National Capital Region and Adjoining Areas Act 2021. So the CAQM is formed through this act. Then what is the mandate of CAQM? That is better coordination, research, identification, resolution of problems with regard to surrounding the air quality index or AQI, and for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto. It means whatever is the matter related to the air quality index or the air quality in Delhi and surrounding areas, it is the duty of the CAQM to do coordination, research and identification that what is the problem and how that problem will be dealt with. Then it undertakes action for the prevention and control of air pollution in Delhi, NCR and adjoining areas. Now this you need to be very clear about, that pan India it is not there. CAQM is with regard to specific areas, that is Delhi and adjoining areas. Then what are the powers of CAQM? So first of all, restricting activities influencing air quality. So if there are any kind of activities which are happening and it is impacting the air quality of Delhi and adjoining areas in a negative way or in a negative sense, then it becomes the duty of the CAQM to look into how that activities like, for example, bursting crackers, stubble burning, construction activities, vehicular pollution, or the pollution coming from the surrounding areas, etc. Investigating and conducting research related to environmental pollution impacting air quality, preparing codes and guidelines to prevent and control air pollution. So, investigation and conducting research. Research means what is done, how it needs to be done, what are the steps that can be taken, how can the air quality or how can the pollution level in the air can come down. Then, issuing directions. Issuing directions on matters including inspections or regulations which will be binding on the concerned person or authority. So, inspections and also regulation. Inspections means ki go and inspect any place which you find is not doing well, and then also regulate things which are not helping in making or in putting the pollution level down in the air. Then all the directions and orders by the commission are of binding nature. Important point for you to remember that it is of binding nature, and any person, officer or authority shall be bound to comply with the same. Then the commission is directly accountable to the parliament. Now, CAQM is chaired by a government official of the rank of secretary of or chief secretary. Then he will hold the post for 3 years or until he or she attains the age of 70 years. So, this was about CAQM, and then comes the last topic, and that is the climate talks dismantling. So, as of now, the COP29 has just concluded in Baku, Azerbaijan, and it is considered to be one of the most important COPs, even though in the end the talk between the developed and the developing nations did not work out that way as it was supposed to be, and this is considered to be a COP which talked about climate finance. So, in the end, things between the developed and the developing nation did not went well, as the amount which the developing country was asking from the developed world so that they can work towards their nationally determined contribution and their net zero targets or bringing down the carbon emissions was not met by the developed countries. So, COP29 meeting held in Baku has just ended, and the main issue of finance, developed countries agreed to mobilize only 300 billion US dollars for the developing nations every year till the time of 2035. So, the developing countries were asking for amount of around 1.3 trillion every year, but it did not take place, and the developed countries have agreed to deploy around 300 billion US dollars every year, which is much less than what the developing countries were asking. And India in the COP29 has outrightly disagreed, has outrightly rejected this plan of the developed nation of deploying 300 billion US dollars to the developing countries. Then way short of at least 1 trillion which the developing countries were asking for. And with regard to the climate finance talks which did not went well between the developed and the developing countries, apart from this, the carbon market or the carbon credit or the global carbon market concept was given the green signal, which was also one of the most important aspects of COP29. Now we will be talking about few of the points on which points the dismantling or the breakdown of talks took place between the developed countries and the developing countries till now at the COP. So, first becomes the inherently unstable. Now, with regards to the increasing the amount of carbon emissions in the carbon emissions, now this is what the developed countries are responsible for, and over the years it is the developed countries who are responsible for increasing the carbon emissions or increasing the greenhouse gases emissions into the atmosphere. But as of now, what is happening is that these developed countries like the European Union or the US, so these countries are not taking the responsibilities that they are supposed to take, and the developing and the least developed or the island countries are bearing the consequences or the repercussions for something that they have not done or something that they have not contributed to. So imagine a situation in which you have not done that thing and you have not contributed in doing something, but you are bearing the brunt of that thing because someone else has done it. And this is what the exact scenario is in case of the developed and the developing nations. So with regard to increasing the greenhouse gases like the carbon dioxide or the methane or the chlorofluorocarbons, or increasing the carbon emissions, or increasing the global temperature to more than 1 degree Celsius or 1.2 degree Celsius, and stopping it at the stage of 1.5 degree Celsius with regards to the pre-industrial levels. So these are few of the things that are in contrast with the developed and the developing nations. But the problem as of now is that developed nations are not taking their responsibility. Developed nations are not giving the desired finances. Developed nations are not helping technologically or research and development aspect of the developing countries to the extent that they are supposed to do. So, the only major unilateral system which is completely aligned against the rich and the powerful nations. So, if we will look at the different aspects, so it is the developed nations which decides on things, but at the COP in the climate finance things, the things were going against the developed countries, because in this the developing countries are asking for amount from the developed countries, and the developed countries are solely responsible for cutting their greenhouse gases emissions and also for providing money and technologies to the developing countries to help them fight climate change. Like for example, the polluter pay principle, that whoever is polluting the environment, that it becomes the duty of that country or that person to consume that much pollution or to consume that much pollution back, so that the ratio becomes zero. Then dismantling begins. So, even though the developed countries must take the responsibilities of lowering down the carbon emissions, but they are not doing it. They have not disbursed the amount that they were supposed to do till now also. Like for example, the earlier goal of $100 billion were also not fulfilled by the developed nations, and developed countries like the United States of America came out of the Paris Agreement. Developed country like Canada also came out of the Kyoto Protocol. So the developed countries are not ratifying these protocols whenever it is about dealing with the climate change or lowering down or putting a restriction on the carbon emission. Then comes next point, and that is emission cuts inadequate. So emission cuts inadequate means that the developed countries are not doing enough cutting on their emissions so that they can meet the target. Like for example, the developed countries have majorly set the net zero target for themselves at 2050, but for reaching that target they need to do around 80 to 90% reductions. But as of now, what they are doing is 35 to around 50% reductions. And while in that line, if they will be keep on moving, then they will not be able to reach the target that they have set for themselves. Then comes the point of dilution of financial responsibilities. That is, the developed nation are arguing that they are not the only contributor to the rising the global temperature, and also in the regard of the increasing the carbon emissions. In this line, since the time of industrialization, many other countries have also contributed to it, and many countries which were least developed has now become developing, and which were developing has now become developed. So these countries also needs to share the financial burden and the financial responsibilities. This is what the developed nation also talks about. So this was about the dilution of financial responsibilities. So this was about the 4 topics that we discussed today. First was the tiger reserve, second was the natural farming, third was the CAQM, and fourth was the climate finance dismantling deal. Now let us do the practice questions with regard to all these 4 topics, and what you need to do is, you people need to tell me the answer in the comment section. So you have to write question number like this: 1, 2, 3 and 4, and then give me the answer. So question number 1 talks about how many tiger reserves are present in India after the Guru Ghasidas Tamor Pangla tiger reserves have been regarded as a tiger reserve? 54, 55, 56 or 57. Next, which among the following is not a feature of natural farming? use of chemical pesticide, use of organic fertilizers, mulching for soil fertility or crop diversification. Next, that is the third. CAQM has replaced which former body responsible for air quality in NCR and surrounding areas? Central Pollution Control Board, Environment Pollution Prevention and Control Authority, National Green Tribunal or Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Next, what is the annual climate finance amount agreed by developed countries for developing countries at COP29? So that is 100 billion US dollars, 1 trillion US dollars, 500 billion US dollars or 300 billion US dollars. So give me the answer in the comment section. And that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. Till we meet next time. Keep reading, keep writing and keep subscribing to the channel. Thank you.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.